Hello everyone, how are you? I'm Makeda Valletta and welcome to my IG and YouTube page, Makeda Valletta Travels. I hope you all are doing well today. In case you're unfamiliar with me, like a lot of you probably that follow me already are familiar with me, but there may be some newbies. So I'm just an American girl from New York City that lives in Chicago that travels around a lot, both nationally and internationally, but of course COVID has slowed that down a bit. And I just did a video talking about South Florida, and in that video there's some things I forgot to say, which I knew that I would because I always forget things when I don't write a list. But I'm coming back to complete these thoughts and also turn it into a bigger picture. So this video I want to talk about what it's like traveling during this COVID situation, okay? Just my perspective, because I've been traveling the entire time, ever since this happened. When the lockdowns first happened last March, I had just got back in the country from Colombia, and was in New York, and then came back to Chicago, and so during the whole height of the pandemic, I was going back and forth between New York and Chicago a lot. And then in December I went to Mexico, and then also in February I went to Mexico. And so, like, of course, when the pandemic first, for most of last year, there was nobody in the airport, nobody on the planes were empty, the airports were empty. This summer, whether I've been in this summer and spring, whether I've been in Atlanta airport, Chicago, New York, there's a lot of people traveling. A lot of people traveling, a lot of full flights. But then, and of course, as you all know, we're supposed to wear masks on the plane. But at first, for a long time they were saying, okay, wear a mask on the plane, but you could take it off if you're eating or drinking. Now they tell you to take it off when you take a bite, but then cover your mouth again when you're chewing your food, which is like so freaking retarded to me, because I'm like, what difference is that really making? That I could take off the mask, take a bite, and cover my face again while I'm chewing my food. It's just like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But to those of you who don't know about my background, I have a background in health science. I'm really into microbiology and that whole thing. I have another IG YouTube page called The Body Scientist, where I get more into depth in that. So I have my reasons why I think it's pretty ridiculous, but I just think it's pretty ridiculous. But of course, you have to abide by it. Just now, I was on a flight back from Fort Lauderdale to Chicago, and the flight was pretty empty. It was like 30 people. I have never been in a flight that empty going to Chicago, so I'm like, I don't know if that has to do with this Delta variant, or there's just a coincidence that there wasn't many people traveling. I don't know. But the interesting thing is that it's different everywhere. New York City is my hometown. Not really too thrilled about their vaccine mandate. Because I'm somebody who does not, want to get vaccinated. I'm not going to get so much into that in this video, because this video is not about that. But to those of you who are not vaccinated and want to know what it's like, traveling different places, I will definitely report on that, because I will continue to travel as long as I can travel places. And so I will speak about that. But it's interesting in the U.S. because it's different in different parts of the country. So, in the past month, I've been in D.C., the D.C. area. And in the D.C. area, I was there in probably the beginning to middle of August. And when I went to the gym, in D.C., the gym had a sign saying that you had to wear a mask in the gym. But then sometimes I don't know if that's really real, because some people have that sign, but it's really optional. So it said that. But then when I walked in the gym, the people that worked in the gym didn't have on a mask, so I took my mask off. But then when I went to go work out, everybody who was working out had a mask. So I was kind of confused, like, do we have to have it or not? I don't know. Then when I was in Virginia, on the Virginia side of DC, nobody had a mask on in the gym, not one single person. When I go into the Maryland side of DC, 97% had on a mask. And so there were still a few people in the gym without it. So I'm like, is it mandatory? And then I remember walking into a gym in Maryland, and there was an older woman who didn't have a mask on herself, who told me I had to put a mask on, so I was confused. And of course in Chicago now you have to wear them again, they had the mask mandate, took it away, brought it back. The thing about being in South Florida, which is where I just came from, do not have to wear a mask in the gym, which I love, okay? Some of you might think I'm crazy, or some of you who have hatred towards people who don't want to wear the mask, you might be mad at me, but the gym is full of a bunch of healthy, able-bodied people. Nobody in that gym looks sick or like they were getting sick, okay? So you have, and there's never been any research or studies that has shown or said that gyms are responsible for spreads of COVID. That's not the case. So it's so drastic how in New York, you need a vaccine and a mask to go to the gym in New York City. But then in Florida, everything's all good. So it's just interesting how you go to different parts of the country and the rules are different. So it's really confusing because in South Florida, I'm carrying my mask around, but I didn't need it in the supermarket. I didn't really need it anywhere. There might have been a couple of businesses that wanted you to have it on, but I mean, like you really did. I probably put it on like once or twice the whole time I was in South Florida, right? So definitely, I'm hoping that there's not a vaccine mandate to travel nationally. I really hope that doesn't happen. But I know when I came back to Chicago apparently has some places on a list of like, if you go to this place, I thought that they said you had to test when you came back or something, but never had to do that. And also in the height of everything last year, when they were saying that like, oh, if you come to New York, when you come from these places, you have to take a test. And I never had to take a test to go when I came into New York or when I came into Chicago. And I remember last year this time, they were making us fill out forms about where we were going. When we got off the plane in New York in particular, this didn't happen anywhere else, didn't happen in DC, didn't happen in Chicago. It was in New York City in particular. When you landed last year this time, they had the military or people handing out flyers to write down where you're going, just in case there's a COVID outbreak, they can reach out to you. And they're not doing that anymore, of course. That's that. But if you're somebody who wants to go someplace and not have to worry about having on masks all day and you want to be able to breathe fresh air, Florida is a good place to go to. South Florida, they weren't on that. So that was a good thing. Flights, in the beginning of the pandemic got super cheap. Then they got really expensive. I feel like this spring the flights were really expensive, and then you had to fly all around the world. You had a direct flights from New York to Chicago is usually 90 minutes, and they were cheap. And then all of a sudden they wanted to take me to Florida and into South Carolina before they take me to New York, and it was like these 10, 12, 13-hour trips with all these connections, and the tickets were like $150 one way, when usually they might be around $50, $60, $70 one way. So flights had gone up like crazy, but now they seem to be dropping back down again, which is good, okay? So they seem to be dropping back down again. I see flights to Mexico from Chicago for like $75, $85, $95 one way. So I will hopefully be going to Mexico in October. The last time I was in Mexico in February, I definitely had to take a COVID test to come back into the country. Before, I was kind of like, irritated by the negative test, but I'd rather take a negative test than have to take a vaccine. So we'll see what happens, over the next month. And if they don't tell us that we can't leave the country without a vaccine or something, I definitely will be going to Mexico. And of course, I will report about that. So any experiences that you all have had traveling during this, COVID situation, please feel free to share anything you want to share. It's just interesting how this is a different world in different parts of the country. Like, being up north in New York, in Chicago, even in DC, like everybody's walking around with the mask on, and down in South Florida was not the case. And, people were fine, So I'm not going to get into too much about that because that's not what this video is about. But I just wanted to share those 2 cents, okay? And please feel free to share any comments that you have. Okay, bye.